Assalamu alaikum, class. Welcome again to your English subject class. Today our poem is the poem 4, taken from the book 3, and the name is Oh Where You Are Going. Oh Where You're Going is the poem's name. This is actually a question, and the writer is addressing the reader and addressing the thoughts that come in the minds of a reader, that what path do you want to take, or what sort of path you are taking. As you can see that from the picture, there are lots of paths going everywhere and directions, and we do not know that what can we come across in our path. The writer, again, is W.H. Auden. W.H. Auden is the same writer who has written The Night Mail. So therefore, we already know about his introduction, about his biography, that he was born in 1907. He died in 1973. He was born in England, but later he became an American. The theme of the poem is that it is a cautionary tale about the dangers of venturing to an unfamiliar territory. The reader, rider, follower, and hero represent aspects of the human psyche, each grappling with their own fears and anxieties. This poem is actually a dialogue between imaginary persons, the reader and the writer. And these are actually those fears that come in the mind of a person when they want to do something. जब आप कुछ करना चाहते हैं तो आपके जहन में बहुत सारे डर और शुभात मौजूद में आ जाते हैं. तो राइटर ने उसको बहुत अच्छे तरीके से इस पोम में जो है वो इनकॉर्पोरेट किया है. The main idea of the poem is that the poet compares ambition person with a lazy person, and the reader represents the hurdles and obstacles. However, the writer signifies all those people who are courageous and ambitious. The first stanza is in front of you. Let us discuss the explanation. First, the reader asks the writer that where he is going. It means that a person has decided to do something, and a thought, a fear comes to his mind and asking him that, what are you doing? Actually, the reader is not inquiring, but warning. He tries to discourage the traveler. He tries to fill him with horror by telling that the valley in which he intends to go is dangerous. It becomes more fatal when fire burns. He further tells him about the awful smell produced by the heaps of dung. He also threatens him that this valley may prove itself of a graveyard for him. So we can say that when a person tries to do something, a lot of fears come to his mind. And these are just one of those examples of the fears that the writer has used and in his poem. In stanzas 2, now another fear comes, and this has become a dialogue between the fearer and the farer. The writer now comes in the shape of the fearer. He tries to create awe and fear in the mind of the farer. He asks whether he has imagined the risk during journey. He refers towards the constant gloom and unattainable ambition. The darkness will hinder and delay his journey. He points out that how much careful and vigilant he can be. The obstacles on his way will shake him. He has to pass through the rocky as well as grassy areas. It means that when a fear comes into the mind, it starts creating doubts in the mind of a person that you will get lost. You will face a lot of difficulties. There were many awful things be present over there. So what happens is that it depends upon you whether you want to listen to those fears or not. In the last stanza, the writer is saying And the second last stanza, the writer is saying, and it has came into the form of the horror, and it is saying to the hearer that, pointing to some strange birds, he makes him frightened. He asks him whether he has seen weird shapes in the curved trees. He mentions the supernatural creature to discourage him. He horrifies him that the phantom is following him. It will seize him and harm him. It means in this stanza, when the fearer, when it fails to discourage the farer, then what does he do? He creates a lot of imaginary doubts in the mind of a person. Why? ताकि वो अपना ये काम complete ना करे. और इसी तरीके से जो है उसके माइंड को कमजोर कर देती हैं, जिसकी वजह से क्या होता है, a person loses his hope. For example, what sort of fear? जैसे कि what's maybe you are suffering from an illness. Maybe there is something behind you. Maybe there is something in the dark. And फिर क्या होता है? If you get frightened, then what happens is that you will not complete your task. In the last stanza, now what happens is that this stanza is actually a reply to all those fears from the ambitious person. The writer replies the reader back. He is not discouraged by any threats. He is determined and courageous. He tells the reader that he is going to leave the house and start his journey. The farer makes him realize that he is timid and cannot face the dangers of life. He can never be successful in life. He says that the horror of the phantom and the weird birds are after him. So therefore, the traveler leaves all the fears behind, and he made up his mind, and he makes up his mind to do his work. So therefore, he left them there as he left them there, and all the fears they lost. And who won? The rider won, the one person who is ambitious. So therefore, the lesson that we get from this poem is that we should not listen to all those fears, all those doubts that come in our mind when we are trying to do something. जब हम कुछ करना चाह रहे होते हैं तो हमारे जहन में डाउट्स आते हैं, शक आते हैं, fears आते हैं, डर आते हैं. हमें उन्हें नहीं सुनना चाहिए. अगर हम उन्हें सुनेंगे तो फिर हम अपना कोई भी काम complete नहीं कर पाएंगे. So that was all, students, and inshallah in the next lesson we will discuss about our next poem. Thank you and Allah Hafiz.